The James Chambers Show contains explicit content.
Alabama will not kiss the ring of political hacks who have sold their souls to the devil to maintain their political power.
They're liberals. They're the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender who want to change our culture. They're socialists who want to change our way of life.
But it is sort of a moment of confusion for the right because defending Roy Moore is what the base seems to want them to do. But Roy Moore is accused of something so heinous that how do you defend that?
I'm going to vote against Roy Moore. I'm going to vote for Doug Jones. I think he's a good man. I think he's a man of integrity. And I can't say that I feel that way about Roy Moore.
You've never voted for a Democrat?
I've never voted for a Democrat.
There's only one relationship that's been alleged that's problematic.
Now, that'd be one too many for some people, right?
Yes, that's definitely one too many.
If Roy Moore wins, let's talk about what happens next. How does Fox News cover that? Do they celebrate that result that night, or do they lament it, or do they ignore it and talk about the Clintons?
Welcome to the James Chambers Show. I'm your host for this podcast, James Chambers. The hotly contested special election happening in Alabama has been raising eyebrows and controversy for months. Alabama, a deep red state, hasn't supported a Democratic presidential candidate in nearly 40 years, actually since Jimmy Carter in 1976. The last Democrat to be elected to the Senate from Alabama is Senator Richard Shelby in 1992, and Shelby switched to the Republican Party in 1994. So, yeah, it's a deep red state. President Trump won Alabama in 2016 by nearly 30 points over Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton. The local Republican Party is bolstered in large part by the evangelical Christian population of Alabama, so-called values voters, whose coalition meets every year at the Values Voters Summit, which aims to, and this is a quote, inform and mobilize citizens across America to preserve the bedrock values of traditional marriage, religious liberty, sanctity of life, and the limited government that make our nation strong, unquote. So it's no surprise that the hard-right, ultra-conservative evangelical Judge Roy Moore has a strong foothold on the Alabama electorate. What is surprising is that the Democratic challenger, Doug Jones, as of today, 3 days prior to the election, is polling neck and neck with Moore. Locals across Alabama are seeing more and more vote for Jones and GOP for Jones and I'm with Doug placards and signs and yard signs in traditionally conservative neighborhoods. And this would have been unthinkable 10 years ago. To be clear, it's not because Doug Jones is some amazing showman or an expert communicator or that he is more than moderately skilled at rallying the base. Jones's beliefs fall right in line with mainstream Democratic values: accessible health care, a living wage, a public-private partnership to develop infrastructure, and so on and so on. And none of this is especially progressive or even much further than just left of center. Jones is no radical. So why is Doug Jones even close to Roy Moore in the Senate race? Well, Moore has very publicly been accused of sexual misconduct with girls as young as 14, and these allegations have not been rebuffed by the Moore campaign except by saying that all of the accusations are false and that all of the accusers are lying.
They're liberals.
Nothing ever happened with any of the girls, but that assertion is falling on shaky ground too as more testimony and physical evidence comes forward. This show did a long piece on Roy Moore and his situation just weeks ago, so head to the YouTube channel and look for an episode entitled Roy the Foil for a deep dive into Judge Roy Moore. Prior to the 2016 election, now President Trump
Bing, bing, bong, bong.
said that he could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and not lose any voters.
Where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's like incredible.
Well, it turns out he was right. Trump has been accused of inappropriately groping, touching, forcibly kissing, and in the case of his former wife, Ivana, rape and assault. Ivana has walked some of those claims back, but she's never completely denied that they occurred either. In all, 19 women have accused President Trump of sexual misconduct over the years, including Miss USA and Teen USA contestants, reporters, business associates, and even just strangers. Even so, Trump was elected president of the United States of America, and in Alabama, his margin was overwhelming. So how can this be? What about so-called values voters? Did the evangelical and larger Christian community in Alabama just set aside their morals and Christian values in the service of Republican ideology? What happened? And what about Roy Moore? I don't want to rehash all of the allegations against Judge Moore, but rather look at his supporters. His deeply evangelical base seems undeterred by the 9 allegations of sexual misconduct levied against him. Or what about him being removed from the state Supreme Court for ethics violations twice? And what about his blatantly racist and homophobic views? This isn't just my opinion. He's been on the record numerous times claiming that homosexuality should be illegal and that it's akin to bestiality, and that America was better off when, as he claims, families were strong and the country has had a direction, even though we had slavery. So I'm beginning to wonder if supporting candidates like Moore and Trump is the cost of reinforcing the right-wing so-called Christian agenda. No matter what the candidate does or says, if he or she is anti-abortion, anti-marriage equality, anti-big government, pro-Christian values in government, anti-Johnson Amendment, if all these boxes are checked, certain people won't care if you lied, stole, and cheated your way through business and into the Oval Office, or if you are credibly accused of sexual contact with a minor. You have their vote, no matter what. These same people will tell you that Bill Clinton is a rapist, not accused, but is, that Hillary is a murderer, clearly. Judge Moore? Well, he's a good person standing up for our values and is just being attacked because he's a godly man, a man of principle. It is this kind of just blind adherence to ideological doctrine that is damaging our country. And look, of course, these people don't represent all Christians in America. Obviously, that would be a silly assertion. If you're a Christian, I'll bet you're on your haunches right now saying, hey, that doesn't represent me. It doesn't represent my church. Don't throw us under the bus here. Look, and I hear you. If your scruples inform you that it's wrong to support people who do vile things, you're not part of the problem. You can be part of the solution, but we'll get to that a little bit later. We must recognize that there is a bridge between right-wing conservative ideals and the foundational teachings of evangelical Christianity, particularly ideas that sprung from groups like the Christian Coalition and the Moral Majority from the 70s and 80s. Just keeping a strong traditional nuclear family, no divorce, abortions of any kind are immoral and should be illegal, that Christianity is under attack in America, and government should be godly. Homosexuality is wrong and sinful and should not be normalized. And we've all heard these arguments just ad nauseum. Are we experiencing a swell of hard right religion because the faithful are truly concerned about their country? Or is it because the shape and color of Christianity and religion in America, more broadly, is changing? Are evangelical voters and leaders trying a strategy born of desperation simply to get any part of their beliefs represented in government, even at the high spiritual price of hypocrisy? Well, look, here's my prediction. Moore is still going to win the special election in Alabama, and he's going to go to the U.S. Senate. And maybe barely, but he'll win. Maybe there's a challenge, maybe there'll be a recount, but to no avail. No matter the outcome of the Alabama Senate race, we all lose. There is no win to be had for anyone here. If Moore loses to Jones, Moore supporters and he himself will claim the system was rigged and Judge Moore is the victim of a conspiracy to defame and slander him. It's all fake news and lies, and you can't trust the party elites like Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan or the media, etc., etc.
They're liberals.
The supposedly victimized extreme religious right ideology will be reinforced. The same outcome happens if Moore goes to the Senate and the Senate leadership refuses to seat him. Moore can again play the victim, as can his supporters. So if Moore wins and goes to the Senate without challenge, well, he wins the game, but we the people lose. His extreme and vitriolic beliefs will further poison the well of our politics for years to come. He, like so many others, are toxic and don't have the moral standing to be our leaders. And look, no one is perfect. We can't expect our leaders to be lily white, cleaned and pressed and starched with no baggage. Everyone has baggage. However, doing some drugs in college or cheating on your spouse are not in the same category of misdeeds as diddling a minor or systematically assaulting women. No whataboutisms, no false comparisons. Both Moore and Trump's alleged criminal conduct should disqualify them from holding public office simply on moral grounds, let alone legal ones. We have seen multiple congressmen resign their positions this week for far less egregious accusations. The only way the situation in Alabama resolves in a healthy way is for Judge Roy Moore to step aside. And he won't. And that decision will hurt us all. Thank you so much for listening to the Roy Revisited episode of The James Chambers Show. We want to hear from you. What are your thoughts about the current state of religion and politics, or religion in America? Follow us on Twitter at RealJCShow, or email us at realjcshow2017@gmail.com, or just leave a comment below. And there's still time to make a difference in the Alabama special election. Visit DougJonesForSenate.com, send him a message of support, or make a donation to the campaign, or volunteer to make some calls. Voting starts on Tuesday, December 12th. Let our voices be heard over the din of lies and corrupted teachings. Alternatively, if you're sick and tired of watching terrible people get rewarded despite terrible behavior, visit roymoore.org. Let old Roy know what you think of his platform. Be civil, but don't hold back. You'll feel better. Trust me. You're all amazing. Thanks for listening to The James Chambers Show. Talk to you next time.
They're liberals.